The fall of 2016. I ain't got much to say about the fall of 2016 in the book right now. You'll find more in 2016/17 in my post so far. There's one thing I can add though. There is one person out there that I've developed an increasingly strong grudge against since the beginning of 2023. Someone I saw in my Facebook feed in the fall of 2016. There was a lot going on in that period that I can't blame him for, and there were a lot of people who misbehaved on social media back then, but still he's the one that bothers me the most right now. And that wasn't the first time I saw him. The first time I actually saw him physically, at Dragon in the fall of 2014, where he gave a lecture that had nothing to do with mental illness. I didn't go there because of him, but to hang out like usual. For everything that's happened over the years since then, it would have been a real relief at this point if only I hadn't seen that very post in the fall of 2016, or for that matter everything else he posted at the time. All he did was, like a ballet dancer, shame illness itself. Since it was still so taboo, he shared his story and his tips with great anxiety. Hardly as well thought out as today's posts on the same topic. That, in turn, didn't make my situation much better. Rather worse because he only made me feel more and more ashamed. That convinced me only more, in my then current state, that Islam was the absolute truth, something I myself had to realize was false. To clarify, the person in question wasn't practicing, nor did he say anything about any religion. But it ain't no wonder he went out the way he did. He had among other things read self-help books, something we know these days doesn't help with exactly everything. He also went on medication, something that doesn't always help either. He was essentially caught up in the corporate world, and his behavior only made it look increasingly cool to live in the margins, which I also did. A life that also comes with a price tag, but the difference was that the rappers of the time hardly embarrassed themselves in the same way, although they spoke out about drug abuse and suicide attempts. They, as well as I, maintained a certain dignity that this guy clearly lacked. Worth noting is he was also racialized from the hood. I'd like to get hold of him, in the physical world, and make a scene like Chris Rock did at the Oscars in 2022. I don't feel the need to initiate the incident with anything else. Anything can happen after that. In the state I've been in throughout much of 2022, it's worth anything. I have to some extent learned to ignore him, telling myself, he's a nobody, he's pitiful, he's a failure, you should feel sorry for him. These are very objective truths in terms of his behavior at the time. But he still should have kept his mouth shut, or better yet chosen a different path in life like many others with his background did anyway, something that would have been more sustainable in the long run. I know psychologists weren't as credible back then as they are today, but it still paid off even for my white middle-class ass to stay away from the corporate world, self-help and pharmaceuticals. He should have done that too. Rapper Einar on the other hand didn't have to keep his mouth shut after he was kidnapped, forcibly dressed in female clothing and photographed in 2020. In the song, Kid with Extra Energy, link in description, he made it clear that he was certainly not a ballet dancer, a poor little victim. And he was only 17 when this happened, and he dropped the song right after that. Although it ended miserably for him at only 19 when he was fatally shot, at least he lived like a lion, not a lamb. This other guy was a few years older than me and that says something. Quote from the song, "If you can handle something like that, you're far from a phony. I'm still standing, I'm a lion, you're a lamb. You would have called the cops as soon as you got a chance." End of quote. I might top it off with this, quote, "I don't give a fuck about your faults or mishappenings, N-word. We're from the Bronx, New York, shit happens." End of quote. That was from Lean Back by Terror Squad. This part of the book is copied from my post from February 27, 2023, and was added to the book in May 9 the same year, with some changes. I also wrote about the same guy on June 22, 2022.